Ohio gozaimasu. For anybody who's out there this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, the reason I say Ohio gozaimasu is because, as I've said before, Sumie Hasegawa, the illustrator of Botanical Shakespeare, is Japanese, and Ohio gozaimasu is the term that whenever you start work, no matter what time of day it is, you say Ohio gozaimasu. Technically it means good morning, but it doesn't have to mean good morning. Sort of the way aloha or shalom or any of those words sort of encompass a broader time frame. Anyway, so here we are this morning, and it is time to breathe and crush and sniff normally. But yesterday was the spring equinox. And today, supposedly, I was reading something where it's an astrological new year. Maybe Aries starts. And the reason I bring that up also is because all of these disciplines, all of these strains of thought were present in the Renaissance. Astronomy and astrology were the same. Queen Elizabeth used John Dee, who was the very famous alchemist and astrologer, to choose her coronation date, which worked out really well. So I don't have an herb today. A herb, as Hannah would say, and she will be coming on later to join us. Hannah Sylvester, the medical herbalist. And but I have this, and it is not a Shakespeare flower, but I often say that Shakespeare's a gateway drug. Shakespeare's a gateway drug for poetry and theater, I think, and the natural world. I hope that Shakespeare's natural world sparks you to sort of incorporate that into your everyday life, whether you're looking at your spice rack or out in the park looking at trees and flowers. But it's gotten me interested in things that aren't in Shakespeare. Oh my God, I forgot the saffron again. It's in the kitchen. So maybe I'll have Hannah vamp again like I did last week and have her while I get the saffron, although I'll bring it up another time, actually. Last week was Saffron's show. Anyway, so this is a hyacinth. And so if you're going to breathe in a scent that does a body good. And they all do. I've been reading all these scientific papers about what they do to the body. I've talked about sweet marjoram and its effect on hypertension and obesity and blood pressure. And they're realizing that a lot of these different scents, Ophelia says rosemary, that's for remembrance. It really does help you remember. And I have had some rosemary essential oil right here that you can put in your water. This one, and we did an interview with the Woodland Trust when we were doing the Beaver Castle Flower Show in the before times, when you could go out and do things like that. Although they did have it in 2020, as it turned out. But in the summer, July of 2019, we did the Beaver Castle Flower Show, and we interviewed the Woodland Trust. And she was talking about, this woman named Kieran, was talking about phytotones, I think. We might rerun that video, because when you go out in a park or when you go outside and you go breathe, oh, smells so fresh out here. That fresh is the smell. That is these phytotones that the plants emit that are actually good for the body, calms you down, clears your head. When you do the deep breathing, it sort of cleanses the body system. Oh, and the other reason I say Ohio is to connect the vagus nerve, which is the brain, to the heart. This nerve, we did a show on that. And these just smell, if you just have them in your house and the smell wafts by and it just smells like a freshness, not even like a sweet, sweet flower, just the freshness of outside. So it's just, yes, somebody said, I love hyacinths. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. And I don't know, maybe they didn't have them in England at the time. Although the funny thing about England, too, is they name people more so than we do here. Lily and Rose are common names for girls after flowers. April, a little bit, but I've met people there named Hyacinth, named Jonquil, so it's sort of funny. They'll go the gamut with with the flower names. So anyway, so the line of the week last week was about spring. Now 'tis the spring, and weeds are shallow rooted. And so what I was talking about was clearing, pulling up the thing that doesn't promote growth, the thing that chokes growth. Weeds often have this bad reputation because they choke other more healthful, fruitful growth. So you want to pull them up when they haven't taken root in your life, in your brain, in all of that stuff. Anything that's holding you back from fruitful growth. And this week, where's that noise coming from? This week, I wanted to also focus on the spring because of the spring equinox yesterday and that newness, the new year, the new season, new astrological year. We have another new year coming up this week. And I thought, look at how the human, man, woman, constantly seeks out ways to refresh themselves. There's all these, this is a new this is a new that. And it's kind of a built-in forgiveness thing where you can constantly start afresh. But anyway, Queen Elizabeth dies on March 24th, 1603, and Lady Day is March 25th, which was the new year when the actual year changed from 1603 to 1604, for instance. So she dies right before the New Year change, which was nice of her in order to not confuse things. But anyway, actually, I think in that period of time when they were, everybody had a different calendar because they changed the calendars in Rome. Long story, not pertinent here. So Lady Day is coming up, and that was had to do with Mary, actually, originally. All of these days were originally religious holidays that got then incorporated into secular holidays. Anyway, so for another spring, I was thinking of we wanted to use foison because we've been spotlighting Shakespeare's women of the day for Women's History Month, which March is also Women's History Month, and Ceres was one of them, and she's the goddess of harvest and also of abundance and growth, and she has a line about foison, and it's not a word we use very often. It rhymes with poison, but foison means abundance, and I think spring is a season of abundance. And also we want to look at where that abundance lies in our life. One of the series is on the Tempest, and we certainly have been through a lot of tempests this past year and continue to go through them with now what's going on in the Asian community. So, tempest, how do you focus on the new growth and the abundance? So, speak of spring and foison of the year. So, a lot of people get intimidated by Shakespeare because of words they don't understand or construction of words they don't understand. And then there's all these words that they do understand that you shunt aside when in fact there's more that you do understand than you don't understand. But learning a new word is always fun, I think. And so speak of the spring and foison of the year. And so one of the things that I realized, it being Women's History Month, and that we're focusing on all these women, is that we've never really learned what Hannah does or why she does it. What is a medical herbalist? And what do they do? What does she do? And she's in Lincoln, Lincolnshire. I am in New York today. There she is. We'll bring her on. What exactly a medical herbalist is. We've kind of touched on it before, a little bit here and there, but never really focused on it. And I thought Women's History Month was the perfect. Hello, Hannah. Welcome. Welcome to the bottom of the screen. Okay, what time is it in Lincoln, Lincolnshire right now?
It is 3:25 in the afternoon.
Okay. So they haven't switched to daylight savings time yet. So we have, I guess it's a 4-hour time change right now, and we'll go to 5. Generally 5, and then for a week or two in the fall it's 6 hours, and for a week or two in the spring it's 4 hours, which is a great time to call people if you know them in England. Anyway, so I know you thought it was a bit random, but that's why I think Women's History Month and this focus on herbs and all of this stuff would be a great time. We haven't even been doing this for a year, believe it or not.
It's gone quick, isn't it?
First of all, what is a medical herbalist? What is a medical herbalist?
Okay, so a medical herbalist or a consulting herbalist is someone who essentially you would go to see to help with your health. So, I mean, the like kind of description, yeah, kind of, yeah. So, I mean, there are various ways of approaching human health, and for some people that would rather choose a more natural approach to health, or for some people that would like to combine orthodox allopathic medicine with other things to support their health. People use it in different ways. So the thing that makes kind of medical herbalism stand apart from kind of herbal medicine as a whole is that as medical herbalists, we treat and support the individual. So we do that by seeing people for appointments and consultations, which obviously are very different at the minute. And we really go into an awful lot of depth about why their health is presenting in a particular way at that moment. So of course, we talk about the things that are really at the foremost of people's minds in regards to their health, but then we look at the underlying factors. So their previous health history, their childhood health, and their health right the way through their life. We look at family health history, lifestyle factors, the food they eat, the drink that they drink, everything that can basically have an impact on your life. And
do you think that regular medicine doesn't do that, doesn't focus on the individual?
It's getting better. But I mean, particularly in this country, the difficulty that we have is that appointments with doctors and nurses and the more orthodox health professionals, the appointments are quite short, and time is limited. And I know many doctors and nurses who wish they could have more time, but they just don't, sadly. So because we're private practitioners, we're not available on the National Health, for example, although historically there are a couple. There are a couple, but they're quite specialist. We can kind of set our own time parameters, really, so we do have more time to talk to people and really kind of get to the nitty-gritty of what's causing the problem, really.
Okay, and what attracted you to being a medical herbalist?
Oh wow, completely by
for it, right? There is a whole. Yes, tell us. And you teach now, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So my path into herbal medicine was quite random. Most people's is, to be honest. There's never really a straight route through to herbal medicine. Most people who train have had some kind of other career before they met herbal medicine. So it attracts really quite a nice variety of people, which is great. But for me, I suppose it all started when I was a kid, really, and I spent quite a lot of time outdoors in my parents' garden when I was growing up. And
is that in Lincolnshire as well?
Yeah, actually in the town. I haven't gone far. And, I went away for a bit and then I came back. So I spent quite a lot of time in my parents' garden and used to really I just used to like spending time outside in the garden and, making daisy chains and, terrible smelling rose petal perfume that, I think, or, rose petals in water and then it smells disgusting. And making up all kinds of, I used to do quite a lot of creative writing when I was a kid. So, well, not a kid, even into a teenager, and used to write about the birds and the animals and the wildlife that used to visit there, and was an avid bird watcher and all that kind of thing. And then I got to being a teenager, and then teenage things took over, as they do. So, and it's not cool to be into nature. Well, it wasn't cool to be into nature really when I was a teenager.
Interesting. So why isn't nature cool? Yeah, I think that I think you're right. It's coming back, but that's always been a struggle. And now we have this weird thing where so many teenagers spend time gaming and video gaming and on their screens and all that stuff. And you really have to be a nature pusher to get them to want to go outside and not only just be outside, but engage with nature on a really physical level. Anyway, so you had to hide or did you just lose your predilection for it?
I think I just lost it. I don't think I listened. I think it's just dormant until the right moment. Because I was still animal mad, and there was when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a vet. But my chemistry wasn't good enough, so I couldn't be a vet. And then, it comes to 18 and you've got to make these big life choices when you're 18 about what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Crazy, but that's as far as I'm concerned. So I went off to university to study geography and hated it. So I dropped out after a year. I was really good at it, but I hated it. So, I mean, I got all A's and B's in my A-levels, but it was just, I think by that point I'd realised that it was not the right route for me. So started work and started working essentially with people for the next sort of 5 to 10 years. I was in customer experience management and, started off in retail and then sort of doing more sort of customer service work and just basically just like dealing with people and, talking to people and listening to people's stories. And that's something that never really left me, really. So in my mid-20s, I had a really niggly problem with recurrent cystitis. It's a problem that a lot of people in their 20s get. And antibiotics just weren't quite cutting it from the doctor. It would clear up and then it would come back and then it would clear up. And then I just thought, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of trying to plan my entire life around where the nearest toilet is. So, you know what it's like when you've got a urine infection, you've just got to run. So I went to the local health food shop and bought some medicinal herbs over the counter, and they worked, and it never came back.
Wow.
So that got me thinking, oh, okay, this is interesting. So then I started reading about it and reading a bit more and bought more herbs and started sort of tinkering around with them. And then completely by accident, because I had no idea that Herbalist existed, was looking on the University of Lincoln website, which is where I studied, and lo and behold, because I always knew I wanted to go back and do a degree in something I was passionate about, and there popped up a Bachelor of Science degree in Herbal Medicine, and that was my ping.
That was your epiphany. That was your... Okay, so I actually don't believe in accidents. So I think that life guides you to where you're supposed to be. And certainly your story and all of those things that you did beforehand. I'm not sure about the geography, but all of those things that you did beforehand feed into, okay. Well, actually, you might be interested in this project I'm working on where early modern gardens sprang up based on where Queen Elizabeth traveled to. So that's a big mapping project. I'm sure Nick is on here. It's much bigger than we thought. Anyway, so we're doing that. But I just think that's fascinating. So now that you went and got a degree, and do you teach there now, or do you teach somewhere else?
Well, the course that I did moved location basically. So instead of being taught from the university, it was taught from the local college, but it was still a proper degree and still accredited by the same. Still validated by the same place, and that's now where I've ended up teaching. So, sort of 11 years down the line of me qualifying, sort of fell into herbalism by accident, and then fell into lecturing by accident. So I've been doing that part-time for the last 5 years. So.
And do you think that the people who come to you for consultations are largely because they've gotten fed up with, like you did, with that traditional medicine wasn't working for them, and they wanted to maybe find out another way to help, find their own health?
Some people, but to be honest, with the people that find me, it's often, I don't know, there's often something else at play that, they've already got some kind of interest in it, or some loose interest in it anyway. And they're just looking to support their health a little bit better. There's more and more information out there about herbal medicine than there ever really has been accessibly before. So it's particularly in recent years when there's been lots of trends popping up. So foraging has become trendy, for better or worse. People have become interested in mushrooms. People have become interested in connecting with nature and all sorts of things, really. So it's something really now that's seeing quite a resurgence. And it's certainly something that, from an educational perspective, informal education, we're seeing certainly more people apply now to Lincoln College than we ever have done, really, which we're, absolutely over the moon about.
And how do you feel about people's it's not self-medicating in this terminology, I guess, but I mean, I dabble myself and I read about something and I think, oh, I need saffron in my honey, or I need rosemary in my water, or whatever. What do you think about that? People sort of figuring out on their own what they might try.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's often people's first experience of it, like mine. But the important thing to remember is that, medicinal plants are powerful things, really. They work for a reason, and there's perhaps sometimes a little bit of complacency where people think, oh, it's natural, so it must be safe. But that's not always the case. There are a lot of poisonous plants out there. And, there are a lot of plants that we've got to be careful how we use, because, if we have too much of them, they might cause damage to the human body. But it's, in terms of using herbs safely without the support of a herbalist, that's fine. But it's just important that people make sure that if they're going out picking things, they are absolutely 100% sure that what they're picking is what they think it is, and not poison hemlock, for example, or a really deadly mushroom. And then there's also the aspects of with medication that people take from their doctors. There are quite a number of herbs that you can't take alongside certain medications. So it's about being safe and, with regards to your health, but also being respectful of the plants as well, with them being, very, very potent, but very effective medicines.
Well, that's a great reminder. We've talked a little bit about foraging, and when you're foraging, if it's near a street or a road or a bus or a place where they use pesticides or there's a lot of pollution, you want to really think about, if you are going to, make sure you wash things thoroughly. But honestly, if you're in a better, more natural environment, that's better. And also, yes, some things don't play well with others. I have to say, when I was writing Botanical Shakespeare, I was very worried about the poison aspect and people, misusing it. I mean, it's been there for 400 years. It's not like people can't look it up, but it was something that was a concern for me. And also, I was collecting all these stories, and this guy was telling me about his friend's son, and they went on a hike, and the friend's son pulled up a wild carrot and said, "Oh, look at this! This is cool," and ate it. And the son ate it too, and they got them to the emergency room, but the little boy didn't make it. Some wild carrots are poisonous. Maybe it was a hemlock derivative. I don't really know. But the son, his son was okay, but the other boy was not. So you do have to be careful. These are not, it's just because it's not sort of traditional medicine doesn't mean that it's any less potent, and plants don't come with the little like skull and crossbones on them. Although we put that in our little book, our little booklet to warn people, and on the website. Anyway, so thank you so much for explaining this, because I felt like it was important for people to understand, first of all, that it's not a casual thing. This is a trained discipline. And of course, I believe that going back to the natural remedies in Shakespeare's day and before are maybe the first line of defense. And then if you have to get more serious with the chemical stuff, you know, I think we have that maybe a bit wrong way round. And one of these things is just to get people thinking about going to a naturopath first, and seeing how far you can get with having the agency and sovereignty of your own healing in your own body. And as I say always, it starts with breathing, and it starts with breathing in good sense. See, there are puns for a reason. Anyway, our line of the week is speak of the spring and poison of the year. Anna, did you think of the Shakespeare line? Because I did. Okay, let's hear it.
I found one. I went through your book for ease.
Well, thank you. That is what it's for. One of the reasons. Excellent.
So I went with chamomile.
Oh.
Because it really popped out the page at me. So the line that you chose for chamomile was Falstaff from Henry VIII Part 1, and the line is, "Through the chamomile, the more it is trodden, the faster it grows. Yet youth, the more it is wasted, the sooner it wears."
It's such a great line. It's the only place chamomile shows up is in Henry IV. So, and it always reminds me, I say this in talks, of that line, the more it's trodden on, the faster it grows. Eleanor Roosevelt used to say something about, you don't know how strong a woman is until you put her in hot water. And a woman is like a tea bag. You don't know how strong she is until you put her in hot water. And that always makes me think of chamomile tea and that line, because they're very similar. So learn the chamomile line, or speak of the spring and poison of the year. Think of your own abundance. And from Hannah, finding your own trajectory through life. You will, if you pay attention, end up exactly where you're supposed to be. Have a great week. I'm off to do the cards, where we're going to talk about that a little bit more.